Things Podcast. Hey, Phantomaniacs, welcome to the newest episode of the Needless Things Podcast, where we talk about toys, movies, music, and all manner of pop culture dorkery. I am your host, Dave, and I am going on about 4 hours of sleep. I have been up for too much math, can't do it, 19 and a half hours now. I just recorded 2 episodes of the Needless Things podcast. First, I'll go ahead and give it away now because it's in the can. I talked to Julia and Eric Lewald. Eric was the showrunner for the 90s X-Men animated series. That episode goes up 2 weeks from today. It was fantastic. I'm so excited to have spoken to them, and it almost, to a certain extent, feels like a companion piece to episode 110, which was my interview with John Semper Jr., the showrunner for Spider-Man, the animated series. It was awesome. I'm still on a high from that. They're great, and hopefully other future things are going to come out of that conversation. We'll see. And I just finished talking to our pal Mike Gordon, and that is today's episode, which is all about our experiences at MomoCon 2018. As you all know, hopefully you guys go to needlessthingspodcast.com, and after you've clicked on the Amazon box and purchased your Amazon goods at no extra cost that help out Needless Things, you actually do look at the articles, because I know you all go there just to help the site out by clicking that Amazon box, but hopefully you read the articles too. I've often heard it said, I just go to Needless Things for the articles. But anyway, this past week, Monday, I put up my written MomoCon review, which has some different details from what Mike and I discussed. Tuesday, Beth had a piece go up. Every day this week, there's something new. Wednesday, I put up my monthly previews. Jerry did something on Thursday. So all 5 days on needlessthingspodcast.com this week, there's content, fresh new content available. We haven't had a 5-day week in a while because I'm old and tired and I just can't do this shit like I used to. But anyway, I talked to our pal Mike Gordon. We had a great time discussing MomoCon. We had a great time at MomoCon, and you are going to enjoy that conversation, is my guess. I want to talk a little bit. There are a couple of things I want to address because this is the intro, and that's where I do this kind of thing. First of all, I have neglected Legends of Tomorrow. We have been not great at keeping up with the CW shows this season. We are probably 8 episodes behind on Arrow. We did just finish Flash, and I have to say that overall the season was terrible. I loved Elongated Man. Ralph Dibny was the highlight of the season until he, spoiler alert, got absorbed into DeVoe, right? The Thinker, whatever he is. Just a shit season, honestly. They have got to stop these season-long story arcs. So Arrow we're not caught up on. Supergirl we're like 12 episodes behind because that show is just unwatchable now. We all agree. Legends of Tomorrow, however, is absolutely fantastic. We got all the way through. We watched everything. It's so much fun. It's so great. I loved Wally on it. I hate that he's leaving the show because I feel like he really came into his own and was honestly the best hero in the CW DC universe because he was proactive. Nobody had to tell him, hey, maybe you should take your hand and vibrate through that thing. Oh, maybe you should use your super speed to do this. He just did stuff. He took care of business. He was great. And now he's leaving the show. But I think Legends is still going to be a strong show going forward. I'm very excited about the next season, so that's great. What else TV-wise? Westworld is blowing my mind again. Legion, it's a little abstract this season. It's a little slow. I'm still enjoying watching it, but it's not compelling me like the first season was. But I can watch a couple episodes at a time, and I'm still digging it. I love the cast, and I'm delighted that it got a third season. Gotham wrapped up wonderfully this season. I can't wait for the next season, although it sucks that it's only going to be, I think, 10 episodes is what they said. It's so much fun. You guys, if you're not watching it, just give it a shot. Go back to not this past season, but the one before it. Go back to the start of the, I guess, third season, and just check in and give it a shot. And if you can't deal with how loony it is, that's okay. But it's fun, you guys. It's so much fun. I think that's all I've got. It's a very brief intro, but I told you, I'm exhausted, and I had to get this stuff done tonight because last weekend I worked all weekend, and it was rough. It was a rough weekend, and I was supposed to talk to Mike Sunday night, and I just didn't have it in me. I knew that tonight, even though it's Thursday, and I've got to sit here and put the show together late at night after no sleep, I knew that I'd be in better spirits heading into my long weekend off. Because I got off today at 5 and I don't go back until I got off today at 5 p.m. I don't go back until Monday at 5 p.m. So that's what I call my long weekend. Because I technically have 4 nights off. I have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So I knew I'd be in better spirits now than Sunday. I knew if I recorded Sunday, because I would know I was going back into work days Wednesday and Thursday, and those typically are the worst days to work. And indeed they were. I just knew I wouldn't be giving you guys the best Dave I could be if we recorded that thing Sunday, even though it would have been a whole lot more convenient to have had the talking portion in the can then. I just didn't want to put out a show that I knew my heart wasn't in, and it wouldn't have been in it. But tonight, you got Excited Dave, you got Happy Dave, because not only were we talking about MomoCon with one of my favorite people in the world, Mike Gordon, but I just came off the high of that fantastic interview with the Lawalds, who are just delightful people. So really, I think that's it. Did I mention go to needlessthingspodcast.com, click on the Amazon box, and see what's in there? Oh, also, check out our friends at Caught Dead Watching, and you know how to use Google so you can find it. Check out the new Casket Creatures album, Return to Wolfton. You know how to find that, too. You can use the Google. You're grown people, most of you anyway. I don't imagine there are too many, 6-year-olds listening to this show. And even though they're not really friends, they're not at all friends of mine, and I never imagined they would be. I really like the new Ghost album, and we may even do an episode about it Sunday before we record our June Needless commentary. I'm not going to tell you right now what it is, but I will tell you it's kicking off our big event, Needless Summer, here at Needless Things. So there you go. There's a bunch of stuff, and now it is time to play a little music from our pals, the Mystery Men, and go straight on in to me and Mike Gordon talking about everything that went down at MomoCon. MomoCon, it just happened, and now we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the Momo-pros and the Momo-cons. Heyo, with our pal, Mike Gordon.
Howdy, I see what you did there.
I hope you do, because I lit it up in neon and shot it into the sky.
Yeah, you did.
So I did my little write-up of MomoCon for the needlessthingspodcast.com, for the actual website that people still go to occasionally. And in that write-up, I mentioned that you and I had a great dinner. So great that I missed Bit Brigade playing Zelda, but that's okay because conversation with Mike Gordon cannot be replaced.
Wow, that's kind of you, but I feel bad for the orchestra.
Well, that's okay. We had a great time talking, and somebody asked, well, why weren't you recording? And it's because we ate at Fandangos,
Fantana's.
Fantana's,
Yes.
Anna Santa Dana Tana. But it was very, very loud, and it would have been pointless to record. Because I thought about it. I was like, I wonder if I should set my recorder out on the table here, but it would have been worthless. We couldn't have done anything.
Yes, Dantana's is a sports bar, so therefore no recording is even considered.
It would have been gibberish and nonsense, as opposed to tonight's, which is going to be very intelligible and informative.
Absolutely.
So we were both down at MomoCon. You were there significantly longer than I was there because you had a table.
It was the first time I've been to MomoCon. This is my 5th MomoCon. So this is the first time I've been there in a while, all 4 days.
Oh, okay.
So this is like last year I was only able to go to it, I think, 1 or 2 days. The year before that I kind of had to split it up because they've been, it's during, usually it's on a weekend where there's other stuff happening. So other things have kind of moved away, so that this one was my focus this time. So my first MomoCon was actually in 2011 when it was at the Georgia Tech. We had a table. I was sharing it with the award-winning Bobby Nash and Sean Taylor, and it was at the Biltmore Hotel. And it was also took place in part of the campus of Georgia Tech as well. There was panels and whatnot going on in some of the classrooms, I think. So I didn't see all that, but I knew that it was something special then. Even though I didn't sell much, I don't even think I had Tiki Zombie out then. I just had the Scarlett O'Neal books. But there was, to get into the Biltmore Hotel, there was a line outside. And it was huge, and it was there all day. I think they estimate there were around 10,000 people there that day, and that was the last time they had it at Georgia Tech. Prior to that, they had it at Georgia Tech. All that, that's where it started from. And then after that, they were like, we need a bigger venue, and then they moved to some hotels. And I skipped all those. Then when they went to the World Congress Center, I was like, they're big enough to go to the World Congress Center. Let me see if I can get in on that action. So I did, and I've been there for the last 4 years as well. So
and also World Congress Center is just it felt like everything was very well organized. A lot of times I would say Heroes Con is the best I've been to as far as making everything navigable and having where everybody is make sense. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I felt like MomoCon did a really, really good job of that too. I didn't have, there have been plenty of cons or several cons where I've tried to track you down and had a little trouble locating you.
Yeah.
And this time I made a beeline while I stopped off at the Lewald's table, which, by the way, 2 weeks from today, Eric and Julia Lewald, showrunners, or Eric was a showrunner on the X-Men animated series, are guests on the Needless Things podcast. I just concluded that interview. But I stopped at their table, but then immediately was able to find you with, you were one of my first stops in the con with very little trouble. I didn't get frustrated, where the hell is he? And you didn't even have your tiki thing.
I didn't have much. Yeah, I didn't have the tiki roof, and my banner broke on the first day, so I couldn't even put up the Tiki Zombie sign. So, and there was a little mix-up with the tables. They had told me the wrong table number, so I was advertising to people that I was going to be at table 23.
That's right.
Table 54, and I ended up being at table 23. So it was
table 54. Where are you?
Exactly. So I did hear from some people that we can't find you. We don't know where you are. We've tried. We've looked, and we're giving up. We're going home. And I'm like, no. But
I need your money. I mean your companionship. I mean,
please,
what?
Yeah, please. Yeah. So, but I still, there was a lot of traffic. It still was busy. I think they broke. They're just getting bigger and bigger. I think they released the data that it was 35,000 people this year.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw.
Yeah. So they're growing, not as in biggest chunks as say Dragon Con does, but because Dragon Con, it seems like they're 5,000 to 10,000 strong like with each one that they do. Whereas MomoCon's only like 3,000 to 4,000 each time. But they're still growing. So, which is weird because I posted a ton of pictures. I love taking pictures of the various costumes, especially ones I recognize. MomoCon,
right.
It almost seems like it's a game. It's
you
like,
got 8 pictures this year.
I know, right? But I'm like, hey, I know what you look like. I recognize. I get that reference.
Although
right?
sometimes you're wrong.
Exactly. Yep, I did find. Yep, that happened this year. But I posted a bunch of pictures, and there was a number of people that told me, "Wow, it looked like it was dead. Like there was just, like, it looked like there was nobody there for your pictures." And I'm like, okay, so that's a little misleading, I guess, because one thing about the World Congress Center is that it's wide. Like there's a lot of room.
Yeah,
and those aisles are really wide. So. Yeah, so I do apologize for the folks at MomoCon, because I didn't mean to make it look like your show wasn't really doing well, because there was a lot of people there, and that was obvious all the time.
Well, fear not, Mike Gordon, because if you go to the Needless Things Facebook page, my pictures show large swaths of people all throughout everywhere, so that it's properly represented there.
Awesome. That must be why you had the press pass and I did not.
That's right. You were not. Yeah, you were not there to promote the show. You were there to sell issue 4 of Tiki Zombie.
Well, not exactly. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So you've got a history with the show, or with being at the show, that I do not. I have only seen it from afar, really only been aware of it for the past maybe 5 years, because it's not my corner of pop culture, for the most part.
Right. I mean, it's been growing steadily over the years, and it's not something that if you weren't in the know, then you wouldn't know what was going on, really.
Yeah.
Because it happens in a space that, you just don't go to automatically. And it's much like AWA. I've never been to AWA. AWA is one of the biggest conventions in Atlanta, but
I think that would be a step too far for me.
I don't know. I'm curious about it. I will say that. Not enough to pay money to set up there, but I'm curious about it because I just like to. It's kind of like you were experiencing with MomoCon. I like to go to conventions, maybe not for the whole weekend, and see people being passionately excited about something. A couple years ago, my brother-in-law invited me to, I think it's called T-Fest or T-Con, which is a Transformers convention that just happened to be in Charlotte that year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'm not into Transformers at all, but I wanted to, and sure enough, I went there, and it was there was a ton of people, and the vibe was amazing, and there were Transformers stuff everywhere, and everybody was running around excited. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool how, I think that gets lost in this day and age where, people think that if they like one thing, that they're the only ones that experience that. But no, it's like everybody has their fandoms, and they're very similar, whether you're into anime, whether you're into comics, whether you're into Transformers, whether you're into sports, whether you're into, whatever you're into. The various conventions and events that are held regarding that hobby or that passion are very similar, basically.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that, because you and I talked, the thing that I want to do, that I've been expressing the most about my experience there, is the energy and the enthusiasm and the love of the attendees. Because, these were kids. They were, for the most part, these were children. The average age there probably didn't even come close to 30.
No, I don't think so.
And they all, as you and I both observed, nobody cared about anybody's gender or race or affiliations or background or anything else. They were all just there to celebrate. I don't even know that they were celebrating fandom. I feel like they were just celebrating that togetherness and being in the same area.
It was just a party.
It really was. And I do think, though, that MomoCon being a little bit more focused maybe contributes to that, because when, anime and video games and cartoons, the focuses of MomoCon tend to have a lot of overlap. And when you have a more solid core like that, I think there's probably less splintering socially. Because it's something like Dragon Con, you've got Firefly and Star Wars and Muppets, and there are so many different fandoms that, sure, you can create a Venn diagram that has a pretty strong middle, but you can also go way off to the edge and not dabble in anything else. But at MomoCon, it's much more focused, and I think that creates an overall more inclusive vibe.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I don't...
And I'm not saying that Dragon Con is in any way really all that cliquey or anything like that, and there's certainly... it's not like it's fractured in any way, but it's also just, there's so much there, so many different things. The people that are truly invested in the classics track probably are not experiencing the Silk track. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
Whereas at MomoCon, I feel like anybody there could have gone to any of the events there and enjoyed them to a degree.
As much as I love Dragon Con, and heck, I host a monthly podcast about it all year round almost. Right. and I do. It's my favorite show, period. But I mean, by its very nature, it does. I don't want to say promotes. What did you call it? Clickiness, but right. I mean, it really is like 30 some conventions jammed into one. Like it's a convention for Star Wars. I mean, that has its own track, and you can just do that if you want. It's a convention for, classics track and celebrating classic stuff, and you can just stay there if you want. It's like you said, the Silk track. It's the science. It's like there's like 30 some tracks that, each one, there are people who just go for that track, and they're fine with that. They have to deal with everybody else, in the habit trails and everything, like everybody else. But yet, there's still that vibe. Now, there are people that mix and match, and you can do whatever you want, and they all come together and have a big, huge party, and that's pretty awesome. But you're right, this is much more focused. But it's much more, and it's also much more about celebrating what's out there now. I mean, it's not celebrating there's not a lot of people there that are representing like old cartoons or old style animation or old style video games, et cetera, et cetera. You'll see some retro Atari shirts, but that's about as far as it goes, right? So this is all about like enjoying what's out there now, living in the moment, really, which is what, I guess it all is being young is about. I don't know. It's been a long time. Like you said, like on average, it's probably way under 30, and you're probably right. So that means for every one of me there's a baby. So
right. Yeah, it's very interesting to see. I went to one of the events I did. Now, did you go to any kind of? Well, you were at your table the whole time.
I was at my table the whole time, but I did go to a panel. I went to a panel on, I think it was creating indie games.
Okay.
I actually went there because a friend of mine had asked, because he wanted to meet or wanted to talk to a creator there, and I was like, sure, I'll just swing by and say hi. So I caught the tail end of this panel. I was amazed at how many people were in the panel. On stage. There was a lot of people on stage, but like in the room, because you just never know how these panels go, and that there was a huge regard for these independent creators, and these are independent creators of video games, not people who are working for the big guys.
Right.
And yet there's a lot of love for that. And there's, one thing that they talked about was how open things are now, to how easy it is for people to create their own video games, and how that's an art form and a narrative that people can participate in now, which was not an option for certainly us for, our youth.
Yeah. And that's gotta be, to an extent, it's gotta be a very rewarding medium, because you as a writer, you put your stuff out there, and people buy a comic from you or a book or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, they're going to take that home and read it, and I hope they enjoy it. But video games are like a different level of interaction and, I guess, user satisfaction. Like, there has to be a different kind of joy from being that video game creator and knowing that people are actually, like, imagine if somebody could walk onto the island that Tiki Zombie takes place on and actually interact with the characters and take part in the story.
Yeah, it's an amazing medium, and it's something that I've thought, perfectly about, but I haven't really dove into, and so I was kind of fascinated by just learning about this medium that I really didn't know much about. I just took it for granted that, there are video games out there, but to see and meet some of these creators that are doing that and trying to come up with different things, because that's really where the indie anything is, whether it's indie music, indie comics, indie games. You're talking about the people who are offering something different, and something different and successful enough becomes the norm. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and that's, I really liked, I don't know if did you have a chance to really look through the panel program down there, like all the different stuff they had?
Yeah, I got a copy of the program, and I looked through it, and I was like, there's a lot of stuff out here for games, gamers, people who want to find out about, the way they celebrate them was really nice. It's always nice to see creators get celebrated alongside talent, and when I say talent, I mean, the people who do the voice work or the acting or the on-screen stuff,
I went to the first panel I went to. Well, I only went to two different things, but the first panel I went to was the Arby's social media company, which you think nerd convention, and you don't necessarily go straight to Arby's social media. But
if you've been paying attention to what Arby's has been doing over the last, what has it been, a year or two?
It's been a while now, I guess.
Their campaigns are right on they're right on the pulse of pop culture.
Well, and that's what this was. It was the team, because it's apparently a marketing firm that works for Arby's. It's not like they're actually part of Arby's. And they basically have free reign to pull from anywhere in pop culture and create, they tweet whatever, references, cosplay, all that kind of stuff. And it was fascinating to me not only to hear about their creative process and the types of resources that they had and the time involved in their turnaround between idea and between releasing it to the public. That was all very interesting to me, because I'm always fascinated by different creative processes that I don't take part in and am maybe not familiar with. But what was really amazing was when they went to the Q&A portion of the panel, a line of 30, maybe 40 kids got up there and started asking them all of these really savvy questions about marketing, about business, about the effect of public perception on this restaurant business. And I was like, when I was these kids' age, I would have gone up and been like, do you guys get free sandwiches? Like, that would have been my question. But they're really dissecting what these guys presented and the way that they do it. And it was just, that was another facet of my, I guess, admiration for the attendees at MomoCon, was that they were so tuned in to this thing that I'm not even really aware of because I'm an old man.
Well, and I will echo that by saying that the kids, that when there was a Q&A portion for the independent gamers, there was about 25 kids that got up to line up to the microphone, and every one of them was a question that I was like, wow, this kid is really like into this, and this is an important event for him because he's like getting to ask and meet these people that he wants to participate in this as well, not just on level 84, how do you get past the boss villain? Like, they're not questions like that.
Right. Yeah, it's about the actual production, about the development, about how things happen, and that's I admire that. I admire that greatly, that these kids are that, and I keep saying kids, I don't mean that. That comes from a place of jealousy, not a place of any kind of derogatory connotation, believe me.
Yes, it's not like we were sitting there going, "You kids, get out of my con."
I was seriously. It wasn't like, "Oh, look at all these dumb kids." It was like, I want to learn from them.
I want that energy.
Me. Yes, teach me your ways. So I saw that panel, and then I stopped in very briefly for one of the AMV panels. Are you familiar with the term AMV?
I am not.
Okay, so I didn't know what this was. I had to have it explained to me by an acquaintance of my dear friend Dana Swanson, who, for those of you who may have listened to the slightly melancholy episode from a few weeks ago, just know that me and Dana hung out all day Saturday. Everything is cool. There's, as I said in that episode, there are no issues. Everything's cool. So we hung out all day, had a great time. But one of her coworkers, acquaintances, whatever, had to explain what an AMV was to me. It is an anime music video. And little did I know, I invented the concept of the anime music video.
Really?
I had no idea, Mike Gordon. This was after high school, when I was moving from apartment to apartment, I had 2 VCRs, which at the time was pretty fancy pants. This is like 97, 98. And one of my hobbies was I would take movies and splice scenes together and then put music over them. So I would, for instance, take Batman Mask of the Phantasm, splice a bunch of the action scenes together, and then put a Ministry song over it, using the 2 VCRs to record into one thing.
Right.
And I actually still have a bunch of the ones that I made. But, and it was just something I did for fun until it became just too tedious and I didn't feel like spending the time doing it anymore. Well, now that we have computers and you can do that kind of shit in like 10 minutes instead of 10 hours, the kids are doing it with anime, but in many, many, many different ways. And so the one that I went to was a late night panel called I'm Not Drunk Enough for This AMV, which I assumed was going to be dirty, filthy, potentially offensive stuff.
Right.
And I went into the room, and I was right, but it was too much for me to take. Because as you know, I've spent years hosting the Dirty Dirty Con Game Show, which is as offensive as anything can be without delving into religion, politics, or race. Filthy show. We once put up a picture of a Hellboy that had penises for eyes. I went into this room, and there is a child up with 2 monitors to either side of him, and he is talking about ghosts crawling into somebody's butthole, but in a much more graphic way than that.
Wow.
And then a video plays of something that I can't even begin to explain. I didn't understand what was happening. And they brought 2 people up out of the audience, and the audience members had to come up with a filthin' something filthy. And I was just like, this is not, these kids are too young. I could be arrested for being in this room, I feel like. So I left. I couldn't do it. But what was interesting to me is I was under the impression MomoCon was a very... and this was at night. This was like 11 o'clock at night. But I was under the impression MomoCon didn't really do stuff like that. But apparently they do.
Yeah, I think, isn't there a word for Japanese anime that's
hentai.
Raunchy?
Hentai is the thing you're looking for.
Thank you. I am looking for it. You can send it please feel free to send it
No, Mike Gordon, you don't know what you're asking.
Yeah, right.
You do not need to see Legend of the Overfiend.
I am going to regret saying that out loud.
No, we are not doing a needless commentary about Uratsuka Doji. I think I pronounced that right. No hentai. But yeah, I mean, and I guess there is that presence there, which made me feel a little better, because I was like, okay, so they're not completely pure and driven. Like, they're still dirty little bastards here.
Well, and absolutely, and not to paint this with only rose-colored glasses, but I did hear that there was some incidences during the weekend, particularly at the rave. That was Saturday night, right? Yeah,
I don't remember if it was. Was it? I don't know. Oh, yeah, it was, because I was going to go to the rave, and this was right after I went to that panel I was just talking about. I'm not drunk enough for this AMV. And I went to where the rave was, and the line was just ludicrous. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, I can come back in like an hour and just walk right in, because if you've been to Dragon Con, you know that's how it works. Like, Never get in line for one of the ballroom party deals. Just come back like half an hour later. But I was like, I can go walk around and come back here in half an hour or 45 minutes, or I can go to bed. I went to bed.
So I did hear that there was, some of the normal, or I shouldn't say normal, because we shouldn't call it normal. The shenanigans that happen at raves or dances or clubs or parties, like inappropriate rubbing and that kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
I do know also that there was a girl, I think I can safely call these boys and girls, that was pretty much nude, that got a ride home from the police.
Oh.
I don't think she was accosted. I think she just was really intoxicated.
She was really warm.
She really needed to get out of that outfit.
Yeah.
So, there are, throughout the weekend, there are reports, unfortunately, of, creepy old men with cameras that are attending this as well.
That's another reason why I went to bed. I didn't want to be one of those.
Exactly. It's just like, if it walks like a duck, it takes pictures like a duck. It is a concern of mine too. I mean, I feel like a little awkward. It's like, I mean, I know that cosplayers like to have their picture taken, but it's like, and I usually don't mind asking at all. It's just like, oh, can I get your picture? Yeah, sure, fine.
Wait, quick poll between you and me. Poll: who's creepier, you or me?
Well, I don't.
I think I'm creepier because I feel like I look more like somebody who might be on Cops, whereas you look like a sweet guy.
I'm a bearded man in a Hawaiian shirt.
Right.
So that right there could be considered kind of creepy.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on your flavor of creepy.
Yeah. Now, granted, my gold chain around my neck is small and subtle.
Yeah, you really need to expand that thing out if you're really going to sell it. You probably need to unbutton the shirt one more button too, if you really want to go for it.
So yeah, I do know that there was, some, I did see the community sort of rallying behind people and saying like, watch out for this guy who's taking pictures and, that watch out for that. So they're on the alert. I mean, they definitely know how to use social media to their advantage and be like, hey, look out, like, and everybody's paying attention, so, and that's good to see. So as much as I like to think that it's 100%, a great positive experience, which I would say it is 95%. There's that element there that, I guess no event can completely wipe out.
Yeah, I mean that's just that's going to be present everywhere, and it's not necessarily even just our genre, pop culture, nerddom, whatever you want to call it.
But even though the kids didn't even seem to they weren't up in arms about it. They were just kind of like, watch out for that dude. Yeah. Like, it's just like, it was so casual. It was like, yeah, you know the dude I'm talking about? Oh, the one with the foreign accent? Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, everybody watch out for him. And then we'll just move on and still have our party.
Well, that's a good rule in general, though. Watch out for the guy with the foreign accent.
Well, I don't want to get on that kick.
I wore. It's funny because that's the reason when you saw me Saturday, I was wearing a suit, and that's the reason I wore a suit, was to look as respectable and professional as I could. And also, I mean, generally I try to look nice, but specifically I was like, if I wear a suit, I present a different image than I otherwise might. But then once I got down there, I was like, well, wait a minute, is the suit creepy too?
No, I mean, if you're walking around with a T-shirt and, one of those, if you're walking around with a T-shirt with a tuxedo printed on it.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, and run.
With a huge, lens that's obviously overcompensating for something, they're pretty keen to that. Trust me on that.
This thing goes from Thursday through Sunday afternoon. Yeah. But when we say that, it literally is 24/7. They have programming from 2 p.m. on Thursday to 5 p.m. on Sunday.
Well, and to be fair, this is the first time since they were at the World Congress Center that as far as I know, this is the first time they had 24-hour gaming.
Oh, okay.
Now the dealer's room and the artist alley closes at 7.
Right.
Most of the programming is done by around that time. They still have events like the rave and the orchestra that you were talking about, concerts, and other, festival type events. But most everything, but the only thing that's really 24 hours is the gaming section of the hall.
Well, but there were panels at 2 a.m.
Wow, that I did not.
No. When I was going through the app, and I already took it off my phone, there were just standard panels at all hours. Literally every hour had a panel for something, and that's that AMV, whatever room that was in, was 24/7. They had something going on in there. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it looking in that app, which, by the way, they had a great app.
Yes, I did use that myself. I thought that it was really good. And it's different. I don't think I kind of expected it because they're strategic partners. I expected it to be very similar to Dragon Con's app, but it was, dare I say, better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was solid. They did a really good job with that. Let's see. Anything else stand out to you? I'm trying to think what else we talked about at that wonderful dinner that we had. Of course, half the things we talked about were not MomoCon.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we do. I know the people are listening are going to be really shocked to know that we go on tangents. No, I'm very keen to understand why the kids thought that you had the sauce.
Oh, okay. So yeah, let me talk about that a little bit. So Saturday night after dinner, I went back to my room, and I mean, it was a convention, so I wasn't going to go down there and not put on a costume of some kind, even though my costume is a very, very basic thing. It's just a mask and a suit, but, you know, I wanted to get out and mingle and wander around as one of the costumed people. So I put on my suit, my star suit, and my star mask, that were a happy coincidence, because back when I was still having the masks made, one of the designs I really liked one year was a big star over one eye, kind of like Ace Frehley style, and then a series of stars around it. And I had the mask made, not really knowing what I was going to wear with it, and that was the year I discovered Appa Suits, with the place that makes the crazy looking suits, and they had a star suit. So it just worked out really nicely, and I wore that for the game show that year. So that's what I wore down at MomoCon, and it looks good. I mean, it is a solid combination. It's very striking in the fact that the mask and the suit are themed, and then I have my silver shoes on. It's a good look. But all night that I was wearing that thing, people kept wanting to take my picture. They kept telling me how awesome it looked. It was really wild that with all of these crazy costumes walking around that people have spent hundreds of dollars and dozens of hours on, I felt like such an ass, honestly, to be taking any attention for my essentially store-bought getup. But I got stopped so many times for pictures, and one guy who is he listens to the show and is a fan of the site. He was actually a couple of years ago. For the listeners, you may remember I featured these guys that did Centurions costumes, the toy line Centurions, not like the actual Roman Centurions. This was one of those guys. And I guess I gave him a card when I took his picture, and he came up to me at MomoCon. He was like, "Dude, what is going on? You're Phantom, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, hi." Because when I get that, I'm always surprised. Like, genuinely, not like, "Ho, what?" I don't expect people to really recognize me, especially in that environment, you know? But he came up, he was like, "Hey, man, I was a Centurion, and I started listening to the show, following the site. I'm a big fan. It's awesome to see you here." I got a picture with him. That's up on my Instagram and on the Needless Things page. And then after that, I was kind of just standing around trying to figure out what to do, very close to the final decision of I'm going to bed. And 4 or 5 kids came running out, and there was a lot of running around, a lot of dancing, a lot of partying. I saw a group of kids doing the Macarena. I shit you not. A lot of dancing down there. But these 4 or 5 kids came running up, and I hear, "Oh, he got too much sauce. Oh." And these 4 kids are like around me, like bowing down, and they're like, "Look at all that sauce! Oh man, you got sauce!" And then they run off. And like the real me, the central core of me, at other times in my life would have assumed that they were making fun of me. but they weren't. Like, because nobody in that place was making fun of anybody. Like, there was so much sincerity everywhere there. And I just could tell, like, and believe me, I am immediately will default to, they're probably mocking me. But that's not what this was. Like, whatever I had going on that night, they were like, that's cool, we're going to have fun and tell this guy he's awesome in our way that he doesn't understand, and move along to other adventures.
So awesome.
The sauce is awesome.
That's awesome sauce.
And another part of what contributed to that is on Saturday when Dana and I were kind of wandering around, we found the karaoke room. And we saw... The first thing that we saw was a girl was up on stage singing a song I was not familiar with. She was very good, but I didn't know the song. And then when she was done, these two guys, one of them who was probably an anime character, but who also looked kind of like Andre 3000 from Outkast, which is an understandably blurry line, got up, and the host was dressed in, it was like one of T'Challa's formal suits from Black Panther. It was very cool. It was a very long jacket with silver piping. Like, the guy looked awesome. He had a lot of energy. With the stuff that I do, when I get into a situation where I'm watching somebody host something or MC something, I can't help it. I immediately go into judge mode and determine if I would be doing a better job than they're doing. I would not have been doing half as good a job as this guy was doing. He was fantastic. And he gets on the microphone and he says, our next song, you know what? I don't even need to introduce the next song. I just, here. And he gave the guy the microphone. And it was two guys, and they each got a microphone. And the opening of Hey Ya by Outkast starts playing, and it's a little, like, it's a bit, it's a segment. And then the song starts, and over the first 20 to 30 seconds of the song playing, half the room just goes up to the stage. And they are all singing every word of this song and dancing and smiling and just unironically, there's not a bit of like, I'm too cool for this. It was just, we're partying and this is amazing. And I leaned over to Dana and I was like, oh my gosh, these children think they're singing an oldie. Because they were probably all like 6 when that song came out. But anyway, it was tremendous. And then after that, another pair got up on stage and did Hakuna Matata from The Lion King. And the guy doing Pumbaa's part was like Broadway caliber, ridiculous songster guy. And the funny thing is we went in there kind of with, because after we did the game show at Days of the Dead, we had planned to go and do karaoke. I don't know what song we were going to do, but Dana and I were going to do something together, and we just ended up not doing it because it was kind of, the karaoke atmosphere was kind of lame at Days of the Dead. But then we get here, and we were like, all right, well, we'll do it here. But then we saw those two things, and we're like, I think we were both kind of like, we're not following that. Let's just... Let's just enjoy that we experienced that and move along with our day. But it was that, I mean, that kind of just jubilant embracing of everything is what I saw all weekend long.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The show's got a really, really good positive vibe to it. Whether you're in the exhibition hall, whether you're at the panels, whether you're in the hallways, whether you are out in the courtyard. That courtyard is hopping.
Dude, that was the spot.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
I thought I was adding enthusiasm. I thought you were going to throw something out there.
I just, yeah, the times that I went out there, I was like, wow, I don't recall this being a thing before. And it was just amazing.
I saw a troop of 10 or 12 girls, young ladies, however they would like to be referred to. If you want to let me know, shoot me an email. Performing a dance routine presumably from some cartoon. And I'm talking like this was rehearsed. They'd practiced this. This was not like spur of the moment. They had their music with them and they played it, and they all 10 or 12 of them had specific roles, and like one of them came up to the front and did a monologue and then danced back into the back, and it was amazing. Like I was like, why is this not inside on a stage? But they just showed up and did it. And then they had some kind of, I felt like every time I walked out there was some new kind of game being played in that little lawn area. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Like, it seemed like there were people grouped up doing something over there every time.
It was absolutely amazing. I will say that, for folks who are into comics, it's a bit of a mixed bag, right?
Sure.
I'm not going to lie. As an independent comic creator, it's tough. I don't sell a lot of books at MomoCon. I have been there. Peter does pretty decently with his artwork. So that makes up most of our sales throughout most of the time that we've done this. And there's a lot of other independent creators there, so that's cool. The promoters of MomoCon have made an effort over the last few years to try to bring more comic book content to MomoCon, and it's a little sliver, but it's there. And so you get great guests, like Christopher Jones, who did the artwork for the Third Doctor Titan book that you and I know both are fans of. Mark Russell, the writer, who just did the Flintstones comic, and I guess he's working on currently the Snagglepuss comic, and he's done some other work for DC. So you've got, other artists like Sogol and Genevieve Brumal. Tracy Yardley, of course, is a superstar because he did the artwork for Sonic the Hedgehog when it was with Archie for like decades, so it felt like. Yeah, the aforementioned Mark Russell, writer Mark Russell was there, and he, like I said, I mean, at New York and in like the bigger shows, New York, San Diego, whatever, he's going to have a lot of people wanting his time because he's one of the hot comic writers right now. And at MomoCon, he can just relax, even though it's a huge show. He can just relax and have like more personal FaceTime with people who are there for him. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for being able to make more of an impression as opposed to just powering through the hordes,
Yes. And, it's a little, for an independent creator like myself, it's fun, but it's also a little frustrating because, I'm not making a lot of money selling books. A lot of people at this convention aren't really buying comics, so it's a little difficult for me. But this year I had the foresight to invest in some enamel pins, and those were really a hit. So I appreciate everybody who came by the table and checked it out and got one of the pins.
Those pins are genius. I think even though I have done horribly with merchandising in every way that I've ever tried to do it, I think I might try for some pins.
Yeah, they did me pretty well. So much so that I'm ordering some Tiki Zombie ones made for Dragon Con. So
yeah, I think I'm going to do it. All right, what else can we say about MomoCon? I mean, honestly, that's really, I think we've gotten across. Like, my big point was it's so much fun. There's so much enthusiasm, and like, even though there's honestly not much there that's specifically my interests, I had a great time. I will absolutely be going back next year. I don't see me staying like all 4 days, but for sure I'll do Saturday and Sunday again like I did this year. Just the environment is fantastic.
It is. It really is. And one of the things you briefly touched on that I think deserves a couple more minutes time is that not only are they really enthusiastic and great fun to watch as far as the kids running around, but I also really, probably out of all the shows, out of all the shows that I go to, this is easily the most diverse crowd, and
yes.
Not in a, we're kind of hiding sort of way. No, we are who we are. We're proud of it, and nobody else minds. We're just being ourselves. And whether that means that, couples that probably couldn't do so in their high school or other environments are actually just walking down the aisles holding hands, or just not even thinking about what anybody else is, with any regard. It's just, it's such a refreshing thing to see. I mean, for all the doom and gloom we talk about millennials and how the kids today are just this, that, and the other thing. I mean, I had the complete opposite reaction after spending the weekend with all these kids at Momo-con.
Yeah, that it's funny because there's, amongst our generation, there is kind of a snarky feeling of, oh, the millennials are ruining everything. But I'll tell you what, after seeing that weekend, I kind of feel like, no, actually, the millennials are probably going to go a long way towards fixing everything.
Yeah, they're going to fix all our broken shit.
Yeah, right. Not just I'm talking about society and everything. Like they're gonna handle all this because we're too set in how we were brought up. No matter how open-minded we might like to be, we just don't have what these kids have, whatever it is. They're gonna take care of it all.
But thanks to MomoCon, we can experience it for a weekend every year.
That's right, exactly. Mike, I feel like we've done the show justice. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I hope we have done the con justice because that's the point. I mean, we really for two quote unquote old guys who it doesn't seem like MomoCon is specifically targeting. I hope that they appreciate that we really appreciate what they bring as far as the convention scene, and I appreciate having the opportunity to talk about it.
Wait, who are you calling old?
I said quote unquote.
Awesome. Mike, thank you for coming on the show. And now, tell us, where can we find you online? What are you up to?
As always, it's my pleasure. You can always find me at newlegendmike.com. That's my website where you can check out the aforementioned Hulu. What is it? Sorry. I just blew that, didn't I? Marketing fail. No, you can check out the new Cthulhu Owl pins that Jazz Ingram designed. They look great. They are for sale on our website. Like I said, newlegendmike.com. And you can listen to me talk about all sorts of crazy things every week on the Earth Station 1 podcast, esopodcast.com.
Awesome. Mike, thank you. I would stick around and talk longer, but I got to get this fucker in the can.
Thank you. I was like, what do I say to that?
Yeah, there's no follow-up to that. It's funny that track, the interstitial track between the intro and the meat of the show, as I call it, is, of course, by our friends the Mystery Men, and it is called The Age of Envy, which is appropriate, because I think Mike and I were both feeling a little envious of the kids at MomoCon and their youth and their enthusiasm and their kindness and their openness. It really was a great time. Go check out themysterymenofsurf.com if you like our interstitial music, which you should. Go check out lesexoflex.com if you like the music you're hearing right now. And of course, our friends the Casket Creatures, their new album Return to Wolfton. I will continue putting it over because it is bad ass. and I keep listening to it alongside It Sucks. This sucks because Return to Wolfton just came out, and I want to listen to it all the time. I've got Losers Club stuck in my head for like a week now, and I'm fine with it because it's great. But then also this Ghost album, a band that I never liked before, have put out this prequel, I guess, prequel, I don't know what it's called. Prequel. I'll stick with that. And it's great, and I want to listen to it too. And I have Dance Macabre stuck in my head. So I have this weird mishmash of Dance Macabre, Losers Club, and the Animotion song. I can't remember the name of it right now. It was the Saturday Night's Main Event, I think, theme song for a while. It's just on my head, on and off, all the time anyway. Which you'd think, that being the case, I would remember the name of the damn song, but I'm tired, you guys. But I sat down and I did this because I love you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Needless Things podcast. You're the best. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Downcast, or in the ears of a Trader Vic's employee. Love you, mean it.